we have both Luis and John, BCU Wealth Advisors and experts in this topic area. And before I kind of dive into things, I just want to give everyone a little recap. Life Money U is a financial well-being program, and we provide free one-on-one coaching as well as money management tools via a mobile app called Money Tracks. More to come with that, but first off, I'm going to hand it over to Luis and then John to introduce themselves, get us a little acquainted here.
Course. Well, hello everyone. Good morning. Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name is Luis. I am the wealth advisor here located in Irvine, California. And the picture you see here is of my lovely family, and this is the reason why I do what I do. On the right is my mother. She's a single mother, immigrant from Guatemala. So I am a first generation college graduate. On the left is my sister, my older sister. I always call her my second mother. Both of them would be the ones kind of gearing me and straightening out the path. I have my MBA. That's kind of what you see on my wall here. I have my bachelor's degree in political science, emphasis on economics. I joined the credit union actually this year, so I'm fairly new to the credit union, but I have been doing financial planning and financial advice for over 11 years. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I do have other passions other than just helping my clients meet their financial future. I love doing outdoor activities. I love my family and just spending time with my family. And occasionally I do some golf, but it is pride destroying golf. So I try just to stick with the driving range and not try to do so much of the golf course itself, just because I don't want to be so embarrassed with some people in the back waiting for me. So a little bit about me, but I will turn it over to John. He has a lovely family as well, and he's going to go right through it as well.
Awesome. I just stay away from golf altogether because I'm even worse. So, but I'm excited to be here. I'm John, so I'm one of the financial planners with BCU. So I get to help people like Luis with retirement planning and investment management. And originally, I got into this industry because I just wanted more knowledge for myself, probably like a lot of you tuning in today. My family moved here when I was 5 years old, moved to the US, and my parents just really struggled, yes, financially, but more so culturally, just not really knowing where to go to for certain things, like who to go to for questions, who to trust, who to not trust. And growing up and kind of starting my way in the world, I didn't want to struggle the same way that they did. And so I was just very interested in like how finances worked and investing and that sort of thing. And I've been with BCU now for 6 years. And what's been really cool is getting to meet with people and help them and help educate them and pass along some of this knowledge. And what I've learned is that a lot of people, even those who were born and raised here in the US, were just as confused as I was growing up. We have a very complex system. And it's very rewarding to just come alongside people and take away some of that anxiety and stress and confusion around investing and financial planning, and be able to just make like really simple, easy goals, give people confidence and get them excited about the path that they're on. So I love what I do. And I'm excited to be here today and talk about investments, and excited for this conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you both. I know, John, you shared a little bit of my next question, which was what got y'all into the world of wealth advising, and how does one kind of find themselves apart from passion in that area? So I know you had explained a bit, John. Luis, what got you into your world of wealth advising today?
I would say it's kind of a two-part answer there. My family experience in growing up, again, I grew up in an immigrant environment. So, like John stated, my mother really didn't know anything. She didn't know what credit was. She didn't know what investment was. She didn't know anything. So that uneasiness of not knowing, and slowly but surely life teaching you these experiences that you should actually know what you're doing. And I'll even share kind of a piece, just more a personal story. In '08, we actually had a house here in Los Angeles, but we lost it due to the crisis where my mother was in a loan that she just didn't really know much of it. She was in the balloon loan. So she really didn't know a lot of it. But it wasn't until the end at '09 where we lost our house and it was a little too late. And that stuck with me as a kid. I didn't really know what was going on just because I was fairly young, but I did know that things changed. We went from a 3-bedroom house to a living in my uncle's 2-bedroom apartment. Like what happened? So that really stuck with me, and that's one of the reasons I do what I do, just because I don't want another family to go through those same situations. And if I can help them just more of clear the financial world, get them to the right option, get them to see all their options, goods, bad, the ugly, and help them choose from there. That's really what I love to do. And the second part of just like kind of what opened my eyes to that investment and just the investment world is actually very, very good to know, and actually in your benefit was when I was in college. I kind of did investment as kind of a side gig. And
Oh.
I lost some, I won some, but that really opened my eyes to saying, hey, I can actually make my book money through investments. What else can I actually do? Can I make my rent off of investments? Can I make other income streams off of investment where my money is working for me and I'm not working for my money? I was going to school in San Francisco. I don't know if anyone knows about the Bay Area that much, but I'll let you guys know this simple fact that it's very, very expensive, super expensive. Rent is super high. Everything was super high. Yes, California is super high in general, no matter what. But for whatever reason, the Bay Area itself was just very expensive. And even though I was going to school full time and I was working full time in the financial sector, I still wasn't making ends meet. Where I still needed some type of funding for my books or some other courses that I was taking in my undergraduate degree. And I got that stream of income through investments. So that really opened my eyes to say, wow, this is very, very in my benefit to know. And I should actually start getting the full understanding of what other options I can get and how else I can create other streams of income where I am not working for this money. The money's actually working for me, and making sure that I hit my goals and my dreams throughout the way. So that's
Yeah.
why I know it's a long-winded answer, but that's kind of two part of how I see it through my life experience and my mother and everywhere else, but then also my personal journey of just paying school itself and paying the other things that school doesn't really tell you you have to pay, which is books, computer systems, different things of those. So yeah, it was both parts that those two kind of just opened my eyes, and that's the reason I do what I do now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. That's it's a great answer, and it's great to get us started, I think. I want to, before I hop into a quick poll to gauge the room, I just want to quickly disclose the difference between a wealth advisor slash financial planner and a financial coach, because we do offer at Life Money U free financial coaching. I will say the wealth advisors here today are provided through our parent organization, Credit Union, Baxter Credit Union, but they are also a separate entity. So just as a disclosure, financial planning is a lot about, as what both John and Louise have just briefly hopped into, which we'll dive in deeper, investments, retirement, compensation, maximizing your portfolio, those sorts of things. Whereas financial coaching, what we offer at Life Money U, think more about budgeting, kind of getting your foundation set, looking at your credit score, kind of those more base foundation pieces. And then the financial planning is tiered on top of that once we have it all ready to go. So John, Louise, do you have anything to add to help folks understand the difference between these two kind of services?
I think that's great. I would
Okay.
just add that it's difficult to invest when you don't have some of those foundational things taken care of first. So it's really important to understand your monthly cash flow, know how much surplus you have an emergency fund, make sure your debt is under control, and then we can kind of take it to the next level with investing and planning more big picture long term with retirement planning and some other things.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would
Louise,
kind
anything?
of second that you guys kind of both hit it on the nail on the head. And John is right. If you don't have the basics, the fundamentals down, it's kind of hard for a financial advisor to take it to the next step. But once you already have that down and you're just kind of searching of what's next, what's my next step, where do I go? I know investments and just everything in the financial world may seem complex. What I always tell my members is it may look like calculus to you, but my job is to make this simple math, basic arithmetic. One plus one equals two. That's my job, is to simplify it very, very easy where my nephew that's 3 years old can understand. And that's what me and John really do. It's just more of making a simple journey and just simplifying the journey for you so that way you can have a full understanding of what's next. What's your next step? What are my options?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we got a little 10-minute warm up here. Now we're going to hop into a poll. So, why are y'all here today? I mean, the topic is kickstarting your investing journey, but we want to steer this conversation toward our audience today. So, everyone here that made time to hop in. So, with that, we'd like to run a little poll. So, you should see here a pop up on your screen, just kind of gauging your preference. So, when it comes to investing, are you looking to get started? Are you looking to maximize your portfolio? Or are you mostly interested in just retirement? You want to make sure you got that sitting pretty while you're working really hard and building all of that money on the side too. So with that, I will give us all a minute to submit our responses, and then we'll go from there. We are not allowed to vote, so our votes will not be considered. This is for y'all only in the audience. Okay, probably give it another 10, 15 seconds, and then we'll see. I might need John Luis, your help to determine which one is majority for our conversation because currently I can just see my presentation. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if we can have Leonor just say in the chat. I can't see the poll either, but she had mentioned planning for retirement is at 50%.
Oh, love it. Alrighty. Okay. Well, with that, I'm just going to hop right into just planning for retirement. So I know the first thing that, oh, look at that. Lovely.
There
So
we go.
getting started, 34%, maximizing my portfolio, 17, and planning for retirement. So provided everyone else is good with this, we're going to just prioritize those topics in chronological order by the votes. So let's kick this off with planning for retirement. Do not feel discouraged to ask questions about the other topics as we're conversating because as a reminder, the remaining 15 minutes of this presentation will be dedicated to your chat, your questions, things that you're thinking of as we talk through some of these things. So with that, my mind just went blank. Planning for retirement. Um, John, would you take us away with just kind of introducing retirement and sort of maybe the simplest options to get started and ensure that you're on the right path?
Sure. Well, when you think about investing for retirement, I think there's a couple of benchmarks. So first is how much you're saving. So, assuming you're starting earlier in your career, I would just kind of use a general 10% as a rule of thumb. Of course, it's going to be different for everybody, especially if you're maybe starting a little bit late. And if you're trying to wonder where you should be saving for retirement, for a lot of people, if you're employed, you should check with your employer to see if they have a retirement plan that you can participate in. For a lot of people, that might be a 401k for two reasons. First, they might have a company match, and you don't want to leave any free money on the table. So you want to make sure you're contributing as much as you need to get the full match. And secondly, a lot of retirement plans like a 401k offer tax advantages. So you can either get a tax deduction when you put money in, or maybe it comes out tax-free when you take the money out. But most of them, either way, you're going to get tax deferred growth. So you don't have to worry about paying taxes as the money is in there and it grows. So it's kind of like a tax shelter. So that would be kind of a starting point, I guess, just to start the conversation is just
Yeah,
make sure you're saving a little bit. And I would look at your employer's plan as kind of a starting point.
awesome. Yeah, Luis, anything to add?
I second that wholly. For sure, take it full advantage of your employee match. You would be surprised how many clients I actually talk to that don't really know their employer match. And that's surprising. To me, that's free money that everyone should know how much they are paying. Figure out the match. I am with John. 10% is the good rule. But some people, like he said, some people can't pay 10%. So what I always tell everyone, the minimum should be what they match you at, whatever the match is. Because if they match you at 6 and you're only putting in 1, well, you're literally leaving 5 on the table. Why would you not take that? I
Mhm.
always say the minimum should be your match. Now, the other thing that I just kind of thought just more of retirements is when people just move to a new job, they kind of sometimes people leave their 401ks at their old providers. Now, that's not bad. That's not good. It just depends on you and how you see that way. The biggest thing that I always tell everyone is when you start a new job, sometimes you can actually roll over that 401k into the new 401k that you have. And that way you at least have some control over it. Some options that I really love about a 401k, and sometimes some of them have this option, sometimes they don't. This is why the biggest thing that I would tell everyone on the call today is get to know your 401k. Get to know the limitations that there are, the parameters that they have. What is the match? What else can I do? Some great options are in case you are doing anything and say it's an emergency, there is some loan options that you can do from your 401k that although it may not be so enticing, but if you are in that very cash strapped or that emergency situation, it's great to know you do have a safety net, which is getting a loan from your 401k. So for me, the biggest thing that I would just take from this is get to know your 401k, get to know what options you have for retirement. If your company doesn't provide you any retirement options, it does not mean you don't have an option. It means you just have to create your own option. So that means either setting up your own IRA and then either John or me can actually talk you through to which one would you like and what's the difference between a traditional or a Roth. But just know you do have options. If you already have an option from work, just get to know what it is. What's the
Yeah.
parameters? How much is the match? And just get started from that option, I'd say.
Awesome. Can we really quick just rewind here as I'm absorbing this too, because I'm part of the audience as well. Difference between 401k and IRA. I know you just mentioned traditional and Roth. So
Yeah.
can we break those down really quick just so people understand where they lie?
John, do you want to take this one?
Sure. Yeah, so a 401k is just like through your employer. So you can't have a 401k just kind of on your own, where an IRA stands for individual retirement account. So that's completely independent from your employer, and you can open an IRA pretty much anywhere. You can go to pretty much any bank or credit union, any, investment brokerage house, all the big names, you can open an IRA. But really, the purpose of them is they're like tax shelters.
Mhm.
So once the money's in there, while it's in there, there's no tax while the money is being invested. And inside of there, you can invest in whatever you want in both the 401k or the IRA. Um, some other differences, the 401k, you can invest more and you don't really have to worry as much about how much money you make. So you can be a higher income earner. And if you're under the age of 50, I believe in 2024, the limit is 23,500 is what you're allowed to put in there. If you're over age 50, you can do up to 30,000-ish. Louis, you might want to double check those numbers, but it's somewhere around there. Um, and with an IRA, you can actually only put in $7,000 per year if you're under age 50 and 8,000 if you're over age 50. So there's less you can put into the IRA. And the IRAs do have income limits. So if you make a lot of money, you just have to sort of check to see if you're even eligible to make a Roth IRA contribution. And for the traditional IRA, you can make a contribution, but you might not get a tax deduction if you make too much money. But with either option, it's a great way to save for retirement. And they're really designed, both of those options, to not really touch them until you're at least age 59 and a half. So it's just a great way to put some money in there, have it protected from tax, and then and pay tax on it later in retirement. So
Yeah.
Luis, maybe double check my limit numbers and anything else you can add to that.
Those
I'm
are
checking
super
your limits.
helpful.
Don't worry. The
Yeah.
biggest thing that I always remember is retirement is one thing you cannot take a loan for. Everything else, if you really think about it, you can figure out some type of finance for. A car, you can get a car loan. A home, you can get a home loan. anything you really think about, you can get some type of financing for. The only thing that you could not get financing for is retirement. So either you saved and you planned very, very well for that, or you didn't. And those are two different lifestyles. Either A, you have enough money where you actually can do whatever you want when you're retirement age, whatever that may be, travel the world, have your grandkids over, whatever it may be, but you're not stressed about, do I have enough money to pay my bills? The second life is you are stressed. You may have to work a second job or a part-time job just to make ends meet. So this is why it's crucial to have a retirement plan ahead of time and actually make that plan come to fruition, because you have all this time while you're working in your prime working years to make sure that you have enough time. You have to make sure that you hit that plan, so that way, when you are retired, you are living stress-free and you're living the retired life that you see yourself living, whatever that
Yeah.
may be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I was just going to add, Luis, you made me think. I do worry a little bit about like the next generation of savers for retirement, because the generation before us, they had pensions, and
Mhm.
pensions are almost non-existent anymore. Like you're very lucky
Mm,
if you have any sort of pension. And so people retiring now and like my generation, we're going to have hopefully Social Security still, which is a stream of income, but that is really only designed to provide about 1/3 to maybe 1/2 of your income in retirement. And for most of us who don't have pensions, you're expected to have other investments or other assets to pull from in retirement. So it's really important, if you're young, just start with whatever you can afford, even if it's $25 a month or 1% of your paycheck, just start with something. If you're older and you're like, oh, I think I missed the boat, you can't go back in time, but you can just look forward and just save a little bit, right? Do
yeah.
what you can and gradually increase that over time, because there probably will be a big emphasis on like your own personal savings and your assets if you want to retire one day, just because there's not pensions and other things like that that there used to be.
Mhm.
I'm so happy we started with this one and it was majority rules because as y'all are talking, keep me honest, but out of any investment, 401k slash IRA slash, saving for after work sounds like the most important and the first investment you should focus on once you get all of your other financials in order. Keep me honest. Does that sound true?
Yeah,
Yeah,
agree.
that's
Awesome.
where I would agree. And then just to kind of piggyback on just what John said, and I always tell this to more of people in my generation and closer around there, is don't bank on Social Security at all. And I can even give you guys kind of just an article that I was reading last week on CNBC. They basically said in 2035, if Congress doesn't really pass any more laws to adjust more capital to the Social Security system, they will have to start decreasing a little bit of the payout. So if you extrapolate that to people that are going to be retiring, I don't know, 30, 40 years from now, how do you see the scenario then? And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm with John, that you need to own this. You need to own a plan. You need to own your retirement, and you need to basically take the bull by the horns and just move it where you need it to move. So
Yeah.
I'm
I
with
love that.
John. You need to have a crucial plan. And again, I always go back to it that you can't really finance retirement.
Yeah. Yeah, well, make note for everyone on the call right now. If this is why you joined the call today, open up your phone, get a calendar appointment ready, designate just 30 minutes of your time right now on your calendar to focus and hone in on where you're at with your retirement, because the hardest part is getting started and the hardest part can be making the time because we're all really busy people. So highly suggest y'all do that right now. Quick reminder, 5 minutes before we start our Q&A, we're dwindling in the questions portions, but remember, if you would like any, please chat them and we will get to them. If not, we'll just keep having our own little convo here through some of the topics that y'all voted on. So with that, unless we have any questions on retirement, I would love to move over to just the getting started portion. That was the second most requested topic that we go through. So if I may, just a stock, a bond, just the difference of those two things. John, Luis, does one of you want to take kind of just introducing those things?
Sure, I can start. So I guess the technical definition, a stock is you're buying a piece of the company, like you have part ownership in the company, and if they do well, you get to participate in that. And then a bond, you're sort of like a lender to the company. I think in more practical terms, though, I like to think of stocks as more aggressive. Like the higher percentage of stocks that you have in your portfolio, the more volatility you can expect in the short term, but also the more growth you can expect over the long term. Versus bonds, I like to think of as usually more slow and steady. So typically a little less volatility, but also not as much growth opportunity.
Mhm.
So you have anything to add to that, Luis?
I'm kind of the same thing. I would say stock, you're just buying ownership of the company. Bond, you're honestly just the lender of whatever debt you're lending at that point. So you just become the bank. And John is correct. Stocks do hold a little bit more risk than bond, but at the end of the day, at like kind of the quote always says, if you don't risk it, you're never going to earn a lot. So it depends on you on which one, but that's where this plan is crucial. You need to know
Yeah.
how many years you have till retirement. You need to have a crucial plan where you can actually outline the milestones that you want to do. And that's where being with a financial advisor like John or myself does play a part into the plan because we give you advice of how we need to actually manage that portfolio for you. Whether we decrease the conservatorship or we increase it to be a little bit more aggressive, we figure out what's the reason why and we do it that way. So it just depends on it just kind of depends on the person and where they're at in the retirement plan, if
Yeah.
they need to be a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more conservative. But I always come back to what John always says is have a plan.
Hmm.
And for me, getting started always goes to just get started.
Yeah.
Everyone tells me like, when is it a good time to start investing? I always tell people yesterday. You should have done it yesterday. You need to just get started.
Yeah.
Get started with getting education, get started with getting a foundation, build your foundation, and then from there, you can kind of build from there. It's like
Yeah.
building a house. If you have a creaky foundation on your house, even though you build a great house, it's gonna fall down. You need to have a great foundation where there's no cracks in that foundation. So that way, when you build your house, your retirement plan, it's very steady and it's very looks very nice for you. So that way you can live your retirement the way you see it.
No,
I
that's
think
great.
risk tolerance comes to mind. I know that's a term that you guys have used, and everyone's risk tolerance is different, unique to their financial situation. A couple questions here related that I'm going to throw at us. Gary asked, how about annuity for retirement? In which situations is it preferred over bond stock? So John, do you want to take this one?
Sure. There are a lot of different kinds of annuities. So you can think of an annuity, there's like fixed annuities, which can be used almost like an alternative to a CD, where they give like a fixed rate of return for, a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year time frame. Um, Annuities have tax deferral. So that's one benefit to an annuity versus taking money that you might just keep at the bank in a CD. There's also, I think a lot of people, when they think about retirement planning, there's annuities that you can purchase that help take a part of your portfolio and turn it into like a guaranteed income stream. And that's what I see most commonly with annuities. And that could be a great option for people. I think a lot of the trade-off with that is, they're either going to have higher costs. The annuities either have a little bit of higher fees than like a standard mutual fund or ETF portfolio, or they might not have fees, but they limit your growth. And so I like to think of annuities as, in a way, sort of like insuring a part of your portfolio, like you're giving up some potential growth to say like, hey, I just want, a guaranteed income stream for this portion of my money. And some people like that, and other people like, instead of using annuities, they might use like a bucketing method where they say, I'm only going to use stocks and bonds. And for any money, like if I'm retiring now, and I've mapped out, I'm going to need, so many thousands of dollars per year in the first few years. I'm going to put that in bucket 1, which is really conservative, maybe cash or bonds. But I have bucket 2 or 3, which is I don't think I'm going to use this money for 5 or 10 years. And with that bucket of money, we can invest in stocks and have more growth. So there's ways of accomplishing your retirement planning, investing with or without annuities, but hopefully that answers it big picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yuri, we hope that helped. Luis, anything to add?
I would say it's kind of just in line with what John said. The way I see annuities, it's more of a protection for your assets, but nothing in life is given free. So what is the cost? The cost to me is growth. Are you willing to not to have that downside protection where if the market does go belly up, you don't have any skin in the game in that aspect, but if it does very, very well, are you okay with not getting so much of the gain? And that's where talking to a financial advisor comes crucial, where we actually have to kind of outweigh the goods, the benefits, and the risk, honestly, with everything. And I always tell everyone, putting all your marbles in one basket isn't the solution either. You need to kind of have different variation. And then that's why I keep sounding like a broken record. And you're going to hear this all the time. Financial planning is crucial. You need to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, like my high school football coach always said, if you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. And to be honest with you, that goes with everything, whether it's in college, whether it's in school, whether it's in just you trying to run a marathon. If you don't have a plan to do what you want to get accomplished, you're planning to fail. Because
Yeah.
if you don't have a plan, what you really are doing is you just have a dream and hope. And that may go, may not. You can talk to me next week when I play the lotto if I become a millionaire or not. That's a dream and a hope.
Yeah,
Do I think
no.
it's gonna happen? Doubt it. But you need to have something there as a plan. And that's kind of where I always keep going back. Get a plan.
Yeah, you remind me of a really good analogy. You said marathon, and I just ran a trail half marathon this past weekend, and I'm reading Atomic Habits. Great book for those of you here on the call. Highly recommend it because a lot of this has to do with just right getting started. But for example, training, right, for a half marathon, we all have the same goal. It's to run it, right, and finish it. But if the plan, if our process, our system for waking up every other day, getting the miles in every week, isn't going well, then we're not going to meet that goal. The people aren't going to, you're not going to finish on your goal time. You might not even finish, the marathon itself. So if your plan isn't in place and strategic and successful, then your goal probably won't be achieved either. So oftentimes the plan is more important than defining your goal, those systems that you have in place. Um, Really quick, bouncing to another question. How can you get started with stocks if you're doing it all on your own?
I can take that. So I personally like using funds that do it for you. So you can go out, to any like brokerage house and you can pick your own stocks. Like I want, whatever percentage in Apple or Microsoft or Amazon and so forth. Or instead, you could just pick a mutual fund or an ETF, which stands for exchange traded fund, which sort of acts like a mutual fund, and it takes your money and invests it in a bunch of different companies. And you can have a fund that focuses on the US or an international fund and so forth. And so I think that's a really great place to start is just pick a fund that does that for you. And then it's going to rebalance internally for you. I think also for a lot of people listening, it might be in the context of like your 401k, and just know that most 401ks nowadays have what are called target date funds. And they do all of that for you. You can pick one target date fund, you pick the year that you're planning to retire, if it's the year 2045, and they will invest in thousands of companies all around the world for you and rebalance it for you, and they'll automatically get more conservative as you get closer to retirement. So I think, like personally, for most people who aren't investment experts, I wouldn't try to pick the particular stocks or bonds yourself. I would pick a fund, and even better yet, pick a portfolio that's managed for your specific goal and let the professionals do it. And it's actually really low cost to do that as well.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of John. That is wholehearted, but I would take it a step back and just educate yourself. The biggest thing that I can say is know what a stock is. Know what just John said. What is a mutual fund? What is an ETF? What's the different sectors? Just to me is knowledge is key. If you don't know what you're doing, then I would say educate yourself is the first step
Yeah.
in this whole process. But I would go back with John just saying that if you're looking to just do stock picking per se, just figure out why you're doing that. What's the goal behind that? And what I mean by that is, are you saving for something in the short term, the midterm, or the long term? And that to me would be the biggest crucial fact, just because kind of what John said, you kind of need to figure out your risk appetite. And if you have a short term, like, I don't know, I'm going on a trip next month and I'm trying to grow my stocks from 1,000 to 10,000, well, you're going to be super aggressive and you may not get there just because it's honestly, it's a month. In a day, things can happen. In a month, things can happen. And I always go back to one of the quotes that Warren Buffett always says is, it's not about how much you have in the market, is how much time you have in the market. And that is crucial, is
Mhm.
how much time you have in the market. And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, make a plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Make a
get
plan
started.
and
So I'm
execute that plan.
Yeah, and I'm gonna another one. I'll sound like a broken record. Get out your phone and make that time to make your plan. You can say and leave here now and be like, "Oh, I got all this great info now and I'm just gonna keep moseying around with it." No, get out your phone, designate that half hour toward investigating, doing your own research, as Louise said. Same topic. Do you guys have any books, resources, blogs, things that you kind of follow and try to get that automated education to you in your inbox? Anything you would recommend to folks here today for this?
Life, Money, You.
Oh, huh.
100%.
I think we have a writer named John who actually just published and is publishing a couple articles, so that's a great one.
Well, I don't know if you have any others, Luis. I mean, um, yeah, there's all sorts of like podcasts. A lot of the ones I listen to are financial advisor focused.
Okay.
Luis, do you have any books or
I
resources?
mean, I would say I kind of I'm with John. I kind of did the new school of how I did everything. I learned everything, and this goes back to my undergraduate degree just because I'm a political science major. So I take everything through news articles and just what's going on in the market. So I read a ton of news articles. I listen to a ton of podcasts. At least for me, the biggest readers that I would say is The Intelligent Investor is one of the good books that I did read. Just kind of teaches you just more of what is an investor, how do they think, what's the rationale, and this helps you create that plan, like the rationale behind things. Again, there's a ton of good books out there, but for me, I'll be honest with you. I have a lot of pets. I have a lot of things that I do on my downtime where I just don't have a lot of time to like sit down and read a book. But what I really can do is I can always listen through them when I'm like working out on my ear headphones or doing something different when I'm walking around my neighborhood with my fiance. So again, I listen to a ton of podcasts. I listen to a ton of ebooks. I read a lot of articles. And then from there, also what I also do, and this is going more into the weeds, is I look at articles that are written by analysis that are usually done by stock pickers. So usually people who run mutual funds, ETFs, they have people that actually look into stocks and different reasons of why. They themselves public articles of just the rationales behind it. They won't tell you it's good, they won't tell you it's bad. But for me, is I always like to know the other person's perspective and the reason why. And that's how I kind of get the reason why is this moving up? Why is this moving down from another professional and just get their reason why. And then I kind of just go down the rabbit hole and just figure out other people's reasons whys.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, while you were talking, Luis, a couple other resources came to mind. So one good book that's always been a good one is The Millionaire Next Door. A lot of
Okay.
good concepts in there. And then when I'm like going online looking at investing related stuff, a great website is investopedia.com. We have no connection to that in any way, but that's one that I personally go to, and they do a really great job of like what is a stock? You can just go to Investopedia, it'll give you a definition and it'll give you definitions for other things related to that where you're like, I don't know what that word means. And they have
Mm-hmm.
videos and all sorts of great resources. So Investopedia is a great one if you're just kind of getting started with investing.
And I'll double that. I wholeheartedly say Investopedia is really good just because sometimes the words are very like just very wordy, very long, very complex, and you're just like, what is this? Like how like what does this even mean? Like what am I reading? At least for me is I need to know the context of each word just so I can kind of get like what am I getting off
Yeah.
of this paragraph or what am I getting off of this article. Investopedia is really good just because it explains to you the word, it gives you the reason why, and it's kind of like the spelling bee where it tells you in a sentence what it is it. And then it gives you like scenarios of how would you use it. And you can kind of understand
Yeah.
of the word itself. And then you read back the article and then you get the full context of what they're telling you.
Love it. Yeah. No, those are great. Thank you for sharing. And if we think of any more, we'll be sure to share them. A couple other questions. We have 4 minutes remaining, so we'll try to get what we can in. Gloria asked, what are good retirement goals by age guideline?
Sure. Well, so Fidelity actually did a good study on this. I can maybe share the link in the chat, but um, there's an article literally called "How Much Do I Need to Retire?" And what they found, and this is just general rules of thumb, so it's going to be different for everybody, but you should try to target about 10 times your annual income by age 67, if that's when you want to retire. But what I like about this article is it talks about where you should be at various ages. So if you're 30, you should have about 1 times your income already saved for retirement. So if you make $50,000 a year, you should have about $50,000 in various 401k, IRAs, things like that. By the time you're 40, I think it says 3 times. By the time you're 50, I think it's 6 times, 8 times by your 60, by the time you're 60. And so at least gives you kind of rules of thumb. And don't let any of those numbers overwhelm you because a lot of that has to do with the way you're invested. Like most people can't save 10 times their income. But if you're invested appropriately, a lot of the growth of the investments does that for you. And so really just focus on, saving at least 10% of your income or getting to 10% as quickly as possible and building off of that, especially if you started late, and then let the investments kind of do the work for you. But I'll copy and paste the link into the chat.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I kind of would second that with John. Just get started with whatever you can, slowly but surely. Don't let the numbers kind of just scare you off. I always say a drop in the bucket is a great start because that's how you get the bucket full of water. If you don't start with at least one drop, then how are you going to fill the bucket? So
Yeah.
just get started.
Awesome. Well, before I close this up, I'm going to do one more question from Yuri because I think it's a good general one. What components should a good financial plan cover?
So I'll take that. I mean, I think of just like the process we go through. There's basically 5 areas. There's retirement planning, investment management, tax planning, estate planning, and risk management. So those are like when you talk about financial planning, it's very broad and there's a lot to it.
Mhm.
But we usually start with a retirement plan, and then kind of build everything from there. So those are kind of the 5 core areas that I think of it in.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
I
Same,
would
Luis.
second the same exact thing. And then the reason we always get started with retirement, again, it always goes part back to what I kept saying is this is one thing you can't finance. And I have never heard anyone like come to me and tell me, I wish I could have saved less. No one has
Yep.
ever told me that to this day. Everyone always tells me if I wish I could have saved more. And if I knew what you told me now when I was this X year, I would have done it.
Yeah.
So I always harp back to just get started.
Totally. Oh, I love it. That'll be kind of just the takeaway is get started. So with that, we're at time. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. And kind of your takeaway really should be to make moves, get started, make time, put in the effort, bring it to fruition, make it a reality for yourself because that's the only way. And it's again, usually the hardest part is getting started. So once you start, it'll be breezy from there. John, Luis, do you have anything to add before we close out? And of course, we'll have your contact information in the chat should anyone want some one-on-one time with Luis and John to talk through your plan and get some more insight. I know they're both more than happy to meet with anyone here who wishes to have that time. Again, this is a Life Money U live event. We do these bi-monthly, and they're really great for all of our subscribers to come and ask questions with our experts, our lovely experts like John and Luis here today. So with that, we hope hope everyone enjoyed, and we hope to see you at our next one.
Thank you
Thank you,
so much
everyone.
for including us.
Thank
Yes,
you
of
so much
course. Thank you for
for
being
being
here.
on. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.